I know you're about to totally geek out for something else here.
I'm about to, tell you that we're live on Facebook for the Not Your Average Investor Show, Thursday edition, the JWB Rental Income Property of the Week. I am your host, Pablo Gonzalez. With me, as always, my co-host, a guy that they call GC because he just great content creator, Gregg Cohen. Say hello, Gregg.
Hello, everybody. Good to be with you on a Thursday. It's Thursday. It's Property of the Week time. And if Pablo's geeking out, I'm geeking out too, baby. Let's all geek out together for rental income properties.
Let's geek out together for rental income properties. If this is your first time here on this Thursday, by the way, I totally short-circuited because I saw Sean Pointer and Nathaniel Reed say hello in the chat, and I desperately wanted to say hi right back to them. But welcome, gentlemen. If this is your first time here, a couple of little housekeeping things, right? This is a super interactive show, especially this Thursday show where we just really trying to educate you on making smart decisions based on the numbers and based on what these deals look like for properties. So the two ways that you interact with us is two ways. One is the chat, which a couple of people have already started doing. Hello, welcome Marilyn. She's already interacting with us. Welcome Jackie. And if you're a regular here, you know that when you first pop open that chat, it is defaulted to only speaking to panelists. And if you're new here, you got to know that you got to drop down that blue box where it says panelists and make it panelists and attendees so everybody else can see what you're typing. So right off the bat, Sean, Nathaniel, Jackie, you're only speaking to us. I would love for you to be speaking to, good morning, Leo, could be speaking to everybody else, right? Because I know, for example, I know Sean is a real estate professional, right? He's got a real estate business. There's a lot of value that you can have here from the crowd in the chat talking to each other. And you may make a new friend. You never know. Actually, you probably will. His name's Lee or Marilyn. And second of all, if you want your question asked on the show, pop open that Q&A button on the bottom right. And that's the best place for me to ask content generation Gregg Cohen over here a question, because as you see, Louis Visco is back. Welcome back from NorCal, one of my favorite parts of the planet. As you'll see, as this chat moves quickly, right? Because people will start interacting and I may lose track of it. I am not perfect. I may go cross-eyed in the process. So if you definitely want your question answered, put it in the Q&A box, and that is the best place to have it. And last but not least, first time here, want to know more about rental income properties, go to jwbwebclass.com, where there's an awesome 20-minute webinar that we've condensed down from 45 minutes down to 20. It is all value packed. And on top of that, you get the free investor toolkit that we've put together that includes the spreadsheet that we're going to be messing around with today so that you can reevaluate deals and look at, similar deals and punch in the numbers just like I'm going to do, and you're going to really want to do it. And last but not least, if you want a specific plan for yourself, how to fit rental income properties into your portfolio, go to chatwithjwb.com, pick out the time that works best for you, and hop on a call with the team, and it'll be all about you, all about figuring out what's good for you. Really good use of your time. And now we are headed into the JWB Rental Income Property of the Week. This week's featured property generates over 9% estimated return on investment, is a brand new construction home, which we haven't had for a couple of weeks here, and has granite countertops, which commands a higher rent. So, maybe a good thing to think about. And the address is 37 Hay Avenue. Gregg, you ready to talk about this property, buddy?
I'm ready, but I don't know if I'm as excited as you are. I mean, how many times have you said, hey, since you knew that we were going to do this property?
I don't know, but enough times, right? I can't help but to read hey, and it just sounds that way in my head for whatever reason. So feel free to hey back at me, buddy. If anybody wants to drop a hey in the chat, I'm in. I will play into it. So tell me about this house, Gregg. Tell me a little bit. Why don't you lead us off in talking about it?
Sure. Well, we are back on the new construction bandwagon here, right? We have featured a lot of renovated homes, and last week you guys were saying, well, is it only renovations at JWB now? Well, it's not only renovations at JWB. New construction is a big part of what we do. It's been a big part of what we do since 2011, and we have new construction homes available right now, of course. So we chose 37 Hay Avenue for a couple of different reasons. Number one, it's new construction, so we can talk through how new construction gets you to those estimated returns that you need to make sure this is a win on all 5 profit centers for you. And new construction comes with something that, well, our new construction comes with something that is kind of unique in a rental property. And I wanted to talk through why we do it. We're talking about the granite countertops. That is standard in our new construction projects now. And so I thought this would be a great learning lesson there. So where do you think we should start, Pablo?
Well, I always like to start just kind of talking to a friend that may or may not be listening to us in podcasts in the future here, that has us in their ear. They don't have the visual cues. First of all, I want to acknowledge Steve B saying Stevie B in the house. But you're only talking to us, Stevie B. Drop down that blue button and put panelists and attendees so everybody sees that you're in the house. And Marilyn, thank you. Hey, Marilyn.
Hey.
So our friend that is, if y'all don't know, if you're new here, we repurpose this stuff into podcast content as well. So it's as easy to consume as possible. So if anybody's listening to it, we're looking at this house at 37 Hay Avenue, Jacksonville, Florida, zip code 32216. It's a purchase price of $225,000, new construction, right? 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2-car garage, estimated rent range between $1,499 to $1,549. It's leased in 2 or 3 years at $1,524. It has a estimated conventional financing total monthly cash flow of $241 cash dollars in your bank account. And its estimated conventional financing total return on investment is 9.39%. So Gregg, before I start breaking down some of these numbers, let's go to that first speaking point, because we'll inevitably get to these numbers. Mm-hmm. We talked about granite countertops increasing the price of rent. Is that like a no-brainer that absolutely everybody does because it increases the price of rent? Or is this like a JWB thing? Can you talk me through the granite countertop stuff?
It is not a no-brainer. It is not normal, because I can kind of walk you through what a new construction provider or a turnkey provider, the choice that they have to make. And you'll see why most turnkey providers don't do it. Let's first start with the state of things in the market right now. As prices go up, as acquisition costs go up, it makes it harder for turnkey providers to be able to make a profit, right? Their cost of goods sold has gone up, but they're also limited because they can't just rise prices to a level, right? Prices are going up, but the more prices go up, it actually decreases cash flows. It decreases your return on investment. And one of the most important profit centers is your positive cash flow, right? So turnkey providers are going to be limited, and they are limited today because they see their acquisition costs going up. They see the limiter as far as what they're able to sell the property for and still generate a positive cash flow. And so they're in a tough spot. That's why inventory across the country is hard to come by. That's why if you're talking to other turnkey providers, you might be on a waiting list. It's because they're having a hard time sourcing inventory and making the numbers work. Well, if you throw on an additional cost on new construction properties of putting granite on top of that, that is just squeezing those numbers more. That's making it more difficult for somebody to be able to provide cash flow positive inventory out there. So it's certainly not a no-brainer. It wasn't a no-brainer 5 years ago before those constraints were there, and it's definitely not a no-brainer now. It's really rare to find it. Talk to our team, it costs about $2,500 to maybe $3,000 more for us to put granite countertops in the kitchens than it would cost for us to put Formica in the kitchens. I mean, $3,000 out of a profit margin for a turnkey provider, that means a lot. So, it begs the question, why does JWB do it? This is our standard approach to new construction. And we understand that that's a cost that comes out of our bottom line. It's basically an investment into our clients, future returns. We do it so we can command the highest rent. So if you look at the property on Hay Avenue, the rent is $1,524, right? That's a high rent. We can command that high rent because somebody's going to walk in there and see granite countertops, and they're not going to have the option to get those in other rental properties. So we can command that high rent. But the other reason that we do it, because the rent thing, it commands a higher rent. Hard for me to really quantify how much higher it is, because you don't typically you're not able to compare that very easily. Like, I know it commands a higher rent, but I don't know exactly what the quantified measurable effect of that is. But what I do know is that this saves you as a client a tremendous amount in maintenance costs down the road, because a Formica countertop, if you have a resident who lives in there for 4.5 years, which is our average duration of resident stay, they're going to scuff it. They're going to have little marks on the Formica, right? They might have some like little burns that happen around the kitchen or whatnot. And for you, your choice is either to replace that when the resident leaves, which is super expensive and you're probably not going to do that, or the next resident coming in is just going to have less good of an experience because they're just going to deal with a scuffed up Formica countertop. But when there's granite, we want to make that investment up front because it's going to command higher rent today. It's also going to command higher rent for you down the road. It's going to limit your maintenance costs down the road. It's also going to decrease your days on market. So we feel like it's the right thing for us to do for the future performance of you as a client. And of course we do that because we have a plan with you. This isn't the first house you're going to purchase and the only house you're going to purchase with us in our mind. You're going to come back and you're going to buy 3, 5, 10. And the only way you're going to do that is if we overperform on your returns. So this is a future investment in that for JWB, and that's why we do it.
Makes a lot of sense to hear you say that, Greg. I wish that there was some way that I could reverse engineer always on brand into the initials of GC, because you're always on brand, right? You are always, as JWB, talking about the long-term experience, the idea that you are not in it to sell somebody one house. You're in it to sell them a portfolio of houses, whether you walk in with one house or you walk in buying 3 or 4, which is what we're seeing nowadays because of the really attractive interest rates that are out there. It's always about the longevity of the return, the experience of the investor, keeping it passive, reducing maintenance fees, reducing turnover rates, stuff like that. I think it's a really cool, and I think that that's a really, really good explanation. So let's talk about some of those returns that we're talking about here, right? So I'm seeing, first of all, new construction, first time we see this in a while. Again, that comes with a $225,000 house, which is a little bit higher on the price point of what we've been seeing recently. So the price point's a little bit higher. Mm-hmm. I also see that, the cash flow is kind of right in line. And then the return on investment is 9.39%. Can you talk through for the new people on this call, what the number one, what that, let's start with this. Can you talk through what that cash flow represents and what it doesn't represent?
Yes. So when we see that $241 there on the screen for the estimated total monthly cash flow, think about this as being a normal month for you as an investor, right? In a normal month, rent is collected. You pay your principal, your interest, your property taxes, your insurance costs, and your property management fees on a normal month. And this $241 is the positive cash flow that is left over in your bank account after all of those things take place on a normal month. The vast majority of months of you owning this property, that's exactly how it will play out. What it does not include, which does not happen every single month and not on a normal month, is it does not include some positive things and it doesn't include some negative things. So on the expenses side that it doesn't include maintenance costs and vacancy costs. It doesn't include tenant placement fees because those things don't happen every single month, right? This is just what a normal month is. It also doesn't include some profit centers that happen, but you just don't feel them every month in your bank account. It doesn't include tax savings, meaning your income tax savings. It doesn't include principal pay down. Wow, getting ahead of myself. Principal pay down, which is your resident paying your loan down for you. That happens every single month. You just don't feel it. And of course, it doesn't include property appreciation. So it is a realistic picture for what you're going to experience in your bank account every single month.
There you go. And to tie it back to what we were just saying of the longevity of the investment and the reason why you have granite countertops, it's because you are reducing that irregular expense that is the maintenance piece that may happen. And then you're also that other irregular expense, which is the turn when you would have to then like fix her up before you rent it back out again, right? So like that granite countertop kind of storyline plays through to this cash flow to make sure that that cash flow stays at 241 as often as possible and doesn't come in. Is that a correct assumption?
That's right. And the costs of the property turn and the maintenance costs would show up in your return on investment percentage, which is a nice segue to that 9.39% number. So in that number, we're taking everything I just talked about, what happens on a normal month, and we're including those things that I said weren't included. So it's including maintenance costs, right? In this case, we have granite countertops. If you had Formica and you had to replace your Formica countertops, right, then it would include that cost if you had it, right? It includes tenant placement fees, right? Let's say we have granite countertops here. Your resident stays on average 4.5 years, because they have granite and a bunch of other things, they're going to stay longer. So your tenant placement fees are going to be lower, but it includes that. It includes that cost in that 9.39%. It includes vacancy cost. That would be the cost of lost rent that you don't receive while there's a vacancy. It would include that cost in there as well. It would also include the other profit centers. So your income tax savings, right? Because of all of the deductions you get from rental properties, which we just talked about in our I think it was our most recent episode, right? On Tuesday, wasn't it?
I think it was the penultimate Tuesday episode, because this Tuesday was the Jacksonville real estate update.
That's right, man. Losing my mind. Penultimate, nice word. So it includes tax savings and includes principal pay down, which we just talked about, your resident paying your loan down for you. It does not include home price appreciation though. 9.39% is absent of any home price appreciation. And Pablo, what historically does the Jacksonville real estate market appreciate at on average each year? Sorry. Wow.
I love when you ask me things that I know the answer to. I appreciate that, Greg. I know that the historical appreciation rate is 4.3%, but why don't you tell me why you don't include it in there, Greg? How about that?
Well, so the caveat with counting on home price appreciation is you need to buy and hold for a full market cycle. That's when you can count on home price appreciation. So we encourage our clients to hold on for a full market cycle, but I can't control that. And I want to make the point that if you don't invest for a full market cycle, you shouldn't be counting on home price appreciation, right? If you're only investing for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, you shouldn't count on it because it is highly speculative in the short run, as the majority of us have figured out over the years, right? You can't count on what appreciation is going to do over the next 3-year period. But you can over full market cycles, and data supports this. If you go back and you look over full market cycles, which are defined to be between 10 to 20 years, and you look at 10 to 20 year segments, the historical appreciation rate, which means like the long term, what the market has appreciated at since 1991, that rate's 4.3%. If you take 10 or 15 or 20 year segments all along the way, you're going to find that the vast majority of those have come in right around 4.3%. And the real estate markets out there tend to repeat that way as across the country. So those markets out there that perform at like a 2% appreciation rate, you take 10, 15, 20 year segments and you line those up, and those appreciate at about 2% as well. So history can repeat itself in a market when you give it a full market cycle. And so the reason why I don't put it on there though, is because I don't know if you're going to listen to me. I don't know if you're going to invest for a full market cycle, and I'm conservative by nature. So we do not put it in there.
Well, Greg, while we were in there listening to you, I took the assumption that somebody is listening to you. They're staying in for 10, 20 years. I put in 4.3%, and our IRR, or is it the IRR or our ROI, right?
It is actually the ROI. Do you know what the difference between the ROI and the IRR is?
I don't know.
It's the timing of the cash flows coming back to you. We could host a whole segment on that. We won't get derailed, but what we're looking at is the return on investment. That's what's coming back into your pocket in year one, is what that 25% number that you're looking at is.
Okay. So that 25% number, Greg, if you can just explain it we go through this every week, but for the new people on the call, right? When I put in 4.3%, for it to go from 9 and some change to 25% is pretty significant. Can you explain why that is?
Yes, absolutely. So what we're talking about here is the asset value going up by 4%, but your return on investment going up by 16% in change. The way for that to happen is if you use conventional financing. If we say it another way, if you buy the property with all cash and the asset value, the market value of the house goes up 4%, your return on investment goes up 4% because you put 100% of the capital into the deal. But when you're using conventional financing, you may put down 25%. So while the market value of the property goes up that 4%, it's only over the 25% capital investment that you had. And so if you run the numbers on that, that's actually a 16% return from the home price appreciation. And simply, that's why it went up from about 9% to about 25%. It's the effect of leverage, the effect of using somebody else's money.
Leverage, man, something that you love talking about, right? I'm really starting to understand it at a deep level. The idea that if I am taking out, $20,000 and having the bank pay the other $100,000 for a $120,000 house, but I'm really getting a 9% return on a $120,000 house. Now we're talking about some really, really interesting things here of being able to multiply my money ahead of time, right? Like I'm starting to get that one too. I want to give a shout out to Lee, who just gave me a little compliment that says that I am now a savvy real estate investor. I definitely play one on TV, right? But I appreciate that, Lee. I also want to welcome Bill Shields. You missed the intro, Bill. We missed you too, but you're here. Better late than never. And Yvonne Jones as well. Yvonne J. Welcome here as well. All right, Greg. So let's go over a couple more numbers. I'm going to put it back down to 0. Actually, you know what? Lee's got a question here in the Q&A box. He says, insurance is on the low side for the new construction than all of his properties. Is that due to location? So let me find insurance here. Where are we at?
Row 27.
Row 27. Thank you for the help, my friend. $404 for annual homeowners insurance. Can you tell Lee a little bit about that?
Absolutely. This is pretty typical for your new construction properties. Low insurance costs are a real benefit to new construction. This is one of the ways that we get to the same return on investment, whether it's new construction or a renovated property. We just get it there. We get there in different ways. So on the new construction side, the way that we get there is we have higher purchase prices. Typically, this is, you see 225, right? That's a higher purchase price than the renovations that we show, right? We also get higher rent amounts. So 1524 is a higher rent amount. So that helps us get there. Our property taxes it's tougher to get there because property taxes are in line with your purchase prices and market values. So your property taxes for new construction properties are higher, which it kind of hurts your ability to get to 9 to 11% return. But then homeowners insurance is lower. This is because the insurance companies deem these as less risky because building codes have been improved over so many years, and they take less losses on this. So they pass this along to you in the form of lower premiums. So that's very normal to have insurance costs premiums in the 400s in the Jacksonville market, something you don't see in many markets out there. And you definitely don't see it unless it's new construction. And then the last difference there is maintenance rate. So new construction properties have lower maintenance costs than renovated homes. We've seen this because we've tracked over 2,000 properties that we've sold. We've tracked them since 2011, and we've been able to see that the maintenance rate for new construction properties comes in at about 4% of the gross rents collected, whereas renovated homes come in at about 6% of the gross rents that are collected. So, that makes it a little bit easier to get to that 9 to 11% return. So the key takeaway between renovated and new construction homes is that I love them both. I have them both in my portfolio. I would encourage you to love them both as well, because at the end of the day, you can get to be between 9 to 11% returns. And if you hold on for a full market cycle, history shows us that both renovated and new construction homes appreciate at a rate of 4.3% on average each year in Jacksonville, if you hold on for that full market cycle. So your best return on investment can be achieved by either renovations or new construction. And that's why we love them both.
There you go. Yeah, I was going to bring that up. The maintenance rate being 4%, right? Given the fact that for the last 4 or 5 weeks we've had rehabbed properties, I'm used to seeing that closer to 8-9% maintenance rate, right? Can you give a little bit of scope on how you get your data for these maintenance rate of these homes versus what other people may be used to, right? Like maybe some people are used to seeing 4%, but sometimes we're showing 9%, and that kind of sticker shock some people. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is different than any other turnkey provider that I've ever come in contact with across the country. I've been in the game for 15 years now. I know most of them. I talk with many of them on a regular basis. I know of no other company that actually tracks their portfolios and their clients' portfolios to see really what maintenance costs come in at, right? The normal industry way to do this is just to take the industry standard approach and take some number that everybody just tells their colleague or their friend in a different market, and they just use it, which is generally 7% of the gross rents for maintenance costs is what you'll typically see. Sometimes you see 5% because people want to get aggressive. But the point is, I haven't seen another company that can actually substantiate that they can perform at that level. We are different. We took this approach back in 2011 that I wanted to see if we could. And I wanted to share it with our clients. I thought it would make us better. And I really wanted to be able to share this with new clients coming in to set the right expectations. And so we've tracked every dollar in and every dollar out for our clients' portfolio since 2011, over 2,000 properties. And so when I can put a number there of like 4% for maintenance costs, I know that's backed up because I've seen all of our new construction properties. I see what their maintenance costs are. I look at it as a percentage of the rents that we've collected, and the numbers 4% are right around there. And then on the renovated side, it's actually 6% if it's on city sewer, right? If it's on a septic tank on the renovated side, we've seen the costs come in at 9%. And so there's a little bit of sticker shock there. There have been a couple of questions and say, wow, 9% maintenance cost on a renovated property, for septic, is that okay? What's going on with that? And I'm saying, guys, this is real life. This is really what it is. You may not be seeing it on another turnkey provider's evaluation, but I guarantee you the cost for a renovated home, are higher than 5% or higher than 7%, because I have never seen any data to not support that. So it's real life, and we want to know early on. We want to share it with you early on. We want to still make sure that we can get to 9 to 11% returns, knowing that we may have higher expected maintenance costs, because that's the best way for you to make the best decision. And so that's why we do it.
You heard it here, folks. This is real life.
Real number day. That's what my business partner
real life
says. We're in the meeting between the four of us, and one of us says, well, I feel like this. I feel like this. He just pretty much like stops the meeting. Real number day, guys. Real number day. I want real numbers.
I love it, man. I love it. Man, maybe a future theme of a show, a Tuesday show, we can do kind of like going through your tabulated kind of how you guys track all the costs. I don't know. Put in the comments if you think that that's a good idea, or if I'm just being like way too nerdy about like somebody wanting to look at how to track an Excel sheet, right? If you all tell us either in the comments or in our Facebook group, jwbfacebookgroup.com, we will make it happen, right? This show is for you, not for us, right? Gregg, speaking of real life, Lee made an interesting observation that hit me as well. When I put in 4.3% here, of course, the ROI jumped up to 25%, but the cash purchase total ROI nor the non-recourse loan financing ROI changes. Is that just a glitch in the sheet, or is that something that you can explain? You see it?
Can't really see it at the moment. Here, hang on a second. Let me move this out of the way here.
So I have it at 0. Tell me when you can see it.
Yeah, I can see it. So yeah, nothing changes there, huh? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It might be a glitch in the sheet.
Okay, there you go. Real life. This is real life, folks.
Yeah, that's not normal. I might have adjusted something there. I kind of play around with these before. I mean, we've done this many times on the show, and it's always changed it. So we might have just, I don't know, I might have screwed up a cell or something, but that's not normal, and that's not right.
That's what I figured. That's what I figured. Sometimes even Gregg Cohen makes mistakes. All right.
Here we go.
Marilyn Connerman asks, huh?
Point Lee.
Point Lee. He got you this time, right? I'm used to getting got by Lee. All right. Marilyn Connerman from Homosassa, Florida.
Home of the manatees.
Marilyn asks, so is the vacancy rate the same for both rehab homes and new builds?
Yes. We've seen that demonstrated.
Okay. So 3% is on average. Do you want to talk about kind of the idea of what a new home is and how long it's a new home?
Yeah. You're talking about the joke that I typically make, right? About how long is a brand new construction home, brand new construction?
Yeah.
1 year. I mean, in terms of like the appreciation angle or the vacancy angle?
I mean, if it's the same for both, then it just kind of rang consistent to me on the vacancy and or appreciation rate angle.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so you're right. So at the core of this, we've been able to track and see that our vacancy percentage is 3% for both new construction and renovated homes. That has less to do with the ability for us to produce either a renovated home or a new construction home, and more with our ability to sign long-term leases and to re-sign those residents for a very long time. You're going to see lower vacancy cost if you can be in a working relationship with a property management company that has average duration of tenant stay over 2 years, over 3 years, over 4 years. And so that's where you're going to see that decrease. So we haven't seen a difference between renovations and new construction because we sign long-term leases on both of them. Our average duration of our initial lease signed is 26 months this year. So we get in between 2 and 3 year leases, either 2 or 3 year leases, and the average is 26 months. And then 72% of our leases this year that have come up for renewal have been renewed, which is huge, right? So that's how we decrease the vacancy cost. Wow, struggling a little bit there, Pablo.
It's okay, buddy. Happens to me too. All right. So then that's for the vacancy rate. That doesn't have to do so much with new construction versus rehab as much as best practices by JWB. What about appreciation? Does appreciation have to do with how well you're maintaining homes, or is that something else?
Home price appreciation has proven to happen for both renovated homes and new construction homes. A lot of folks say, oh, I should go to a new construction property because it's going to appreciate more. And again, everything I do for holding on to rental properties is based on the long haul, because I'm convinced that the best risk adjusted return on investment for me is by holding on for a full market cycle when I can count on home price appreciation. And when you think about holding on to this asset for a full market cycle, 10 to 20 years, your home is not going to be considered new construction in 10 years. It's not going to be considered new construction in 5 years, right? So if you were going into this saying, hey, I'm going to buy this property today, and then I'm going to sell it next year, and is it still going to sell for a premium? You know, you can make an argument that new construction would have a premium over a renovated home because it largely would be new construction. But that's not how we're going into this. I don't think that's the best way to make the best return on investment for rental properties to do that. So I'm throwing that out the window. If you throw that out the window, then both new construction homes and renovated homes appreciate over time, and both have shown to appreciate. In fact, some of our neighborhoods where we have renovated homes have been the largest appreciating neighborhoods out there, right? Sometimes it's new construction, but if you look over the past 15 years, you could absolutely make an argument that renovated neighborhoods have actually appreciated just as much as new construction. So I wouldn't differentiate between the appreciation potential of either, assuming you're holding on for a full market cycle.
Okay, great answer. Stephen Block, aka Stevie B, from our Facebook group. Welcome, Steve. Asks, did y'all change your exterior color scheme, or is that the picture?
I don't think we changed our exterior color scheme. I'm trying to think back of past properties we put on the show, but that's pretty standard.
Yeah. Also, Steve, Gregg's colorblind, so not the best person to ask about.
Yeah, that was real fun going through we're planning our studio for those who weren't on the call right off the bat. We had our meeting here of planning out our vision for the studio here, and question was like, oh, well, when we have these fancy cameras and lightings and all this other stuff, you know, we're just going to need to change the reds, the blues, and the greens just to, you know, make sure if you've got a different person in here and you want to make sure. And I'm like, that's not going to be Gregg's job. Gregg would fail miserably. It's a wonder I can get dressed in the morning.
Yeah, that's funny, man. I learned it when we were, you know, whenever we bring up the plot graph of all the different properties that JWB owns, and you're like, hey, man, real quick, am I talking about the yellow number or the red number? Right? Like that was something I learned. But speaking of the neighborhood the neighborhood plotted graph of all the different homes that JWB owns, what neighborhood is this 37 Hay Avenue at? 32216? Where is that in Jacksonville?
This is right on the edge of Arlington and Southside.
On the edge of Arlington and Southside. Okay, cool. So like just east of downtown area, kind of.
Yep, east of downtown. That's right.
Right on. So again, I'm going back to this rent number, right? Like this is a much higher rent than I'm used to seeing, quite frankly, because I pay around $1,400 in rent in Jacksonville, and this is the first time I'm like, oh my God, this is in my rent range. Usually it's much lower. So is this just a high rent neighborhood on top of that, which may also drive the reason why it has a 2-car garage and it has a granite countertop? You want to elaborate how you adapt to the different neighborhoods based on what's out there?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, at the end of the day, our limiter is positive cash flow. And if you get too high, either in purchase price, really, if you get too high in purchase price, then you're going to be in a neighborhood where you don't have significant rental demand. And so the rents would be lower as a percentage of purchase price. Your rent to price ratio would be too low to generate positive cash flow for you. So an easy way to think about this is if your median home sales price in Jacksonville is about $260,000, which is what it is here in Jacksonville right now, we want to make sure that we're below the median price so that we can be in these cash flow sweet spot neighborhoods. If you get to 260 and you go higher than 260, it's not going to be possible to have enough rental demand in those neighborhoods to where the rents would be high enough that you would be cash flow positive. So that's one of the limiters. Well, so this property, 225, as you get closer and closer to 260, it gets harder and harder to get positive cash flow and still generate 9 to 11% returns on investment. You have to find pockets, sweet spots where, in a neighborhood like this between Southside and Arlington, purchase prices are higher, right? Your 225 is the market value for that neighborhood. And you got to make sure that there's enough rental demand to be in there. This is right in between Arlington and Southside are two of our bread and butter neighborhoods. So we have many homes that are rented for $1,400, $1,500, $1,550 a month. So this isn't new, but this is higher on the scale of our typical inventory, right? Our normal purchase prices for you as a client are going to be between $150 to about $210,000. So this is on the higher end, which means that it's a neighborhood that has more owner occupants than a typical neighborhood that JWB is in. And it works because the rent to price ratio is high enough, along with low insurance costs like we talked about, along with low maintenance costs like we talked about. And that's how we can still get into these properties between 9 to 11%.
Great explanation. Can you talk to me about if I am an investor at JWB and I'm debating whether, I've gone through the plan with the mics, right? Like I went to chat with jwb.com. I figured out where I want to be in 10, 20, 30 years. And now I'm thinking about adding homes into my portfolio. Why would I pick a home that is $225,000 in price point at this cash flow and this ROI versus one that might be $150,000 at a similar cash flow and maybe a slightly higher ROI? What would make me want to pick that?
Well, so this one, really anything above 9%, anything 9 to 11% that's your target right now based on what the market is bearing, right? If we go back a year ago when we were doing this show, it was 7 to 9% is what we were talking about, right? So, now we're able to get higher returns on investment because mainly the interest rates have gone down so much. So 9 to 11% is your win. And so for new construction properties, generally it's going to be closer to the 9% to maybe 9.5, maybe getting to 10%. And it's really what's available there. So it's not so much like a 11% property is so much better than a 9% property. In terms of new construction, you're largely going to be between 9 to 10%. Your renovated homes are lower on the pricing scale. So they're generally priced between 150 and 180,000. A little bit easier for us to get to those 10 to 11% returns for renovated homes than it is for new construction. And honestly, right, we're talking about 9.39% return. Would I look at this and see an asset like this where I could generate 9.39%? Look at another one and say let's call it 1.5%, or another one that says 9.6%. And would I think that those are dramatically different? Like, no, right? I mean, those are largely the same. Right? There's a tremendous amount of assumptions that go into this. And when you hold on to this thing for a 10-year period or a 20-year period, in my mind, I'm like, okay, get me over 9%, right? That's a win. If new construction is the angle that we want to go down, if it fits in the budget, over 9% is a win. I really wouldn't split hairs between 9.15%, 9.35%, right? If there's a point difference, right? If maybe there's a half a point difference, maybe I pay attention to like splitting hairs on that a little bit more. But at the end of the day, you're going to hold on to this thing for 10 years. Right? I can guarantee you that we're not going to come in exactly at 9.39% when we look at this later down the road. Like every year when we're looking at this together, right? We're going to come in at 9.43% or 9.6% or 9.1%, right? So, I really don't split hairs too much when it's such a small difference there.
Yeah, Mike Foster puts in the chat here, within the margin of error, right? Like that's the quotation marks and the vocabulary. So then talk to me about who tends to pick new construction versus renovated homes. Do people come in with any kind of misgivings about that? Like, do you find people leaning towards one or the other and not really understand that correctly? Can you talk me through that?
I think it's just natural for people to look at this and think, wow, new construction is where I want to go. I mean, that's just the feel of it, because a lot of the people who come to investing in rental properties with us are not real estate investors. And there's this fear that they're going to wake up one day with like 5 rental properties in their portfolio, and it's just going to be maintenance cost after maintenance cost. They're telling themselves they're going to get calls from their tenants and all of these problems. I mean, that's the fear that they have. That's what holds a lot of people back from getting into rental properties. So when you look at a brand new property like we just showed, and that picture, in people's minds, they have an emotional reaction. They say, new construction is going to be easier. New construction is going to be better, right? You've heard me talk a lot about how in the 300 plus rental properties that I own, the vast majority of them are actually renovations, right? I am agnostic between new construction and renovations. It doesn't matter to me because I'm here for the return on the investment, and I'm not going to be living in this house, right? It's an income generating tool for me, but not everybody feels that way, and so there's an inclination to go to new construction over renovations, you know, and I think that's just human nature, especially with the type of folks that are coming to this asset class that are less experienced in real estate in general. Those are the typical clients that we have at JWB.
Nathaniel Reed with a super, super valuable comment here in the chat. He says that he put 2 new construction properties under contract prior to working with JWB because he assumed 1, lower vacancies, 2, better tenants, and 3, higher appreciation, all which appear to be unfounded. And I feel like we've kind of hit on all that, right? Like we've hit on lower vacancies, we've hit on higher appreciation. We haven't really talked about tenants, Greg. Does new construction versus renovated drive the tenant type, or what drives the tenant type?
No, I mean, it's really hard to differentiate and say that a resident for a new construction home is going to be a better resident than a renovated home. I mean, listen, when people walk into a brand new construction home, there's a sense of ownership that they really love. I mean, I can think about when I was renting a home, you know, I never had the opportunity to rent a home that was brand new construction. I mean, that would be a pretty cool thing. And I think there's a sense of ownership there, really hard to quantify. But the renovations that we do, I mean, we were just doing our sales cards, which my business partners and I review once a month. We look at all the sold properties and we look at the amount of the renovation dollars that are put into those properties, among other things, of course. I mean, it's amazing the type of dollars that we spend on renovations, right? You're looking at some houses that are not more than 1,000 square feet that we put $40,000 into, $50,000 into. I looked at one house yesterday on our sales card day. I mean, the house we renovated, we spent $70,000 renovating this house. Do you know how many square feet it was, Pablo?
$70,000 renovating the house. I'm assuming it was like a 1,300 square foot house.
It was 900 square feet. I'm like, how do you even spend $70,000 renovating a 900 square foot house? I mean, we did it. It was the right thing to do. And that's, I mean, but that's an aberration. We don't normally spend $70,000. Our normal renovation's $40,000. And these homes generally are, 1,200 square feet to 1,500 square feet if they're renovated homes. So that experience that a resident has walking into a renovated home is very similar to what it's like walking into a new construction home, because everything pretty much is brand new. So to get to the original question, we get really quality residents regardless if it's brand new construction or if it's a renovated home. And that's substantiated by our average duration of resident stay, right? Our average duration of resident stay after they have signed their initial lease and then re-signed, our average duration is 4.5 years. And so the vast majority of our inventory is renovated homes. Like if you look at the 3,600 homes that we manage, the vast majority of those are renovated homes. They're not new construction homes. So that just gives you a little bit of, facts behind the fact that it's more about long-term resident stays and it's more about the quality of the renovation or the new construction. And that's how you're going to get a long-term resident stay.
That makes me think of something else. When you talk about better tenants, right? Like, what does that mean? It sounds to me that your categorization for better tenants is how long their stay and how well they'll take care of the house. How does JWB look at quality of tenant? Like, what are your metrics for that, or what are your subjective opinions? Can you talk me through that?
Yeah, it goes right back to how's it going to affect your returns, right? That's what we're here to do. So a better resident to me is how am I going to decrease your maintenance and your vacancy costs? That's a better resident for me if I'm just have my investor hat on, right? Now, I'm not talking to the customer service side and the relationship building side. So if you guys will pardon me for just being very objective about this, if I'm thinking about the best way to perform for you, my definition is, how do I have a resident here who decreases maintenance and vacancy costs for you? So a better resident is one who signs a long-term lease, renews, stays a very long time, and has very little maintenance costs while they're living there, and has very little maintenance costs on the property turn. The better we get there, the better the returns are going to be for you.
That makes a lot of sense. Again, on brand, right? Like always looking at that long-term perspective of ROI for the client in the service of the client, because all of your incentives are aligned for wanting to sell people more houses, right? And add more to their portfolio and add more passive income to their life so they can go sail around the world or whatever, man.
There you go.
Very, very cool, my friend. Well, I think we knocked out this property pretty well here, buddy. I think we did a good job for what what was the address? 37 Hay.
You didn't forget about that.
I knew Hay. I was looking for the number, man.
Oh.
I was like, I really just want to say Hay again. So, Gregg, what do we got coming up next week? Do you know who we have coming up next week?
Oh, we got my buddy Paul Shively's joining us, huh?
You got your buddy Paul Shively. I just talked to him yesterday. I'm pretty pumped to talk to him. You wanna tell us about your friend?
Paul is an incredible friend. He's a client of ours, and he's also the director of the Passive Income Club for Fortune Builders. Fortune Builders is a company that we have a strong relationship with, to say the least. Fortune Builders, really, that's how I got my start in real estate. I started to learn from Than Merrill, Paul Asajan, and Fortune Builders back in the day. They kind of took me under their wing. And if you haven't heard of Than and Paul, they were on the show A&E's Flip This House a long time ago. They were one of those house flipping teams before there were like 1,000 different programs about that now. There was the first. It was called Flip This House on A&E. And that's part of the way that they rose to their fame. And they have an incredible company teaching people how to build a real estate business. But there was a day when they didn't have thousands and thousands and thousands of students to teach. There was a day when they had zero. And I met Than that day. And I actually was student number one of Than back in the day. And the Fortune Builders, really the guinea pig, the test subject for all of them. So that was, about 15 years ago. An incredible relationship with the organization. And I've gotten to know Paul Shively over a decade now as well. And so Paul Shively runs the Passive Income Club. And if you remember one of our previous guests, Keith Weinhold, he is somebody that has this incredible opportunity to see multiple markets, multiple turnkey operators out there, invest in multiple markets, actually put his money in multiple markets. And we were able to learn his perspective of what the right way to go about this investment is, how to differentiate between different markets, and really the styles of investing, active and passive. He was a great resource. Well, Paul Shively is very much that same mentality, except he gets blown up by companies who want him to refer people to the Passive Income Club on the daily, right? Fortune Builders decides to refer their folks to JWB. It's an incredible relationship we have, and it's a very small number of organizations that Fortune Builders does that for. And Paul is the gatekeeper for Fortune Builders to decide who they are going to refer their clients to come and build their rental property portfolio. So if you can imagine the amount of experience and knowledge and tough questions that he has to ask in order to take on a referral partner where he's going to send his business to that person, that's Paul. And that's kind of the lens that we get to kind of learn from. Along with his journey here at JWB, he owns multiple properties with JWB. And many of our clients are Fortune Builders students. And so many of you on the call will get to meet Paul here if you haven't already met him. And I'm super stoked.
The value of the gatekeeper is something that is so underrated, man. Me as a networker, like I know that if I need to get in the door with somebody, the best thing that I can do is make best friends with the gatekeeper, right? Like they have all the information because they see it all, and they're always in that intersectional point between what people want and what people are offering. I think it's going to be an awesome call. Like I said, I talked to him yesterday. Super cool guy. Took the Zoom call from his like balcony with a sun on his face. I'm like, it's a nice day in San Diego, isn't it there, Paul? He's like, yeah, man, it's not. He's like out in La Jolla.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, really cool. He also, little spoiler alert for those of you on the call, he's been killing it with the cash out refi lately, is what he told me. So he wants to tell some people about kind of like his cash out refi strategy, which I know we kind of shy away from here, but a lot of people ask about it. So I'm like, all right, cool, Paul, if you can, bring some value there, I think we can talk about that too. So I think that that's going to be super, super valuable. And again, a guy that has been involved with over 500 million real estate transactions and a super cool dude. So I'm pretty pumped up about it, man.
Not too many other people in the country that you're going to be able to learn from who have that much experience, not just investing themselves, but literally managing portfolios of thousands of rental property investors across multiple markets. And I think the cash out refi strategy would be great to talk about with Paul, because it is so timely right now. There's not many times when you've had this much of a run up of above average appreciation and you have low interest rates right now, like we see. The recipe for being able to maximize your returns through a cash out refinance are right there. So it'd be awesome to learn that.
All right, buddy. For those of you that are still on the call right now, 35 plus people that have been with us, we never take it for granted. This is the best, like being able to hang out with everybody, dropping comments in here, giving us great questions to ask. Oh, you know what? We got one more question here. Shawanda Harris coming in at the buzzer with a buzzer beater question. Shawanda asks, how can you determine the value of a new construction in a lower property value area? For example, building a new construction in an infill lot in a lower price point area.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, it's the same way that we would determine what the market value is of a renovated home or a new construction home. And that's the way you do that is by running comparables. Comps is what they're called, right? And this is what a licensed appraiser would do. And if you purchase a turnkey rental property, especially with JWB, and you get a loan, you would get a licensed third-party appraiser who runs this same process. But you're going to look to see what comparable properties have sold for in the area. The closer the range, maybe it's a half mile, and the shorter the time frame, maybe it's 3 months out of the last sale, the better the quality of your data is. And so you're able to do that, Shawanda, whether that's a new construction home or a renovated home. It's the same process. And a realtor friend may be able to help you. If you're a realtor yourself, you'll have access to the MLS. That's really what appraisers are using. They're just they train for it. They know how to make slight adjustments here and there, but that's the secret sauce right there.
Awesome. This is why you stay till the end of the show, right? You get these buzzer beater questions with a bunch of value. And it also, Stevie B asks, great question, Steve. He asks, when is the call with Paul Shively? It is on Tuesday, right? So it's our Tuesday 12:30 call. We do Tuesday interviews. Thursday's property income of the week. We're not going to have a property income rental property of the week.
Week.
Yes. Thank you, Greg. Thank you. We're not going to have one because next Thursday is Thanksgiving, right? So, we would love to have everybody with us on Tuesday. It's going to be value packed. It's going to be our for the first time since like March, our one time a week that we get to talk to everybody instead of twice a week. So we'd love to have everybody. Lee Bishop. Wow. Pablo tripped over his lips. True story, buddy. Jackie Kerr asks, can we register for that at jwbshow.com? Yeah, Jackie, you definitely can. That being said, I believe that if you are registered for this show, you're already registered for the next one, and you're going to get, unless you've opted out of our reminders, which we only send out about once a week. So unless you've opted out, if you're already registered for this show, you're going to get a reminder for that one. So you should be there. I think it's going to be great. Again, if you're new to this call and you want more of a breakdown of the 3 key things that you just can't miss when it comes to rental property investing that we may or may not have talked about today, go to jwbwebclass.com. You can download this spreadsheet that we were just tinkering with. You can mess around with it all you want and use it for all of your deals and beat up other turnkey providers over why they don't have such great assumptions. And again, if you want to have a specific plan for you want to get in before the end of the year, right? Like I've been going through my investment journey. It takes about 4 to 6 weeks. If you want to get the tax benefits before the end of the year, I suggest you go to chatwithjwb.com right now. Tripped over my lips again. Lee, I'm beating you to the punch. And schedule the call with the mics, get the ball rolling so that you can get those tax benefits. And last but not least, like I kind of alluded to earlier, this is the best. I love hanging out with you, Greg. I love hanging out with our friends on the call, with our friend that's listening in the podcast. This is really an honor to be a part of this. And I'll leave it up to you to kind of send us away, buddy.
Likewise, just wanted to give a shout out to the folks that joined in the watch party on Tuesday night. I know Jackie was there. I know Leo was there. A number of our friends here. Lee was there, of course. And it's becoming another kind of cool community that we're building on those Tuesday nights to replay the show. I know Jackie was mentioning or I was talking to her about the web class as well. So Jackie, I hope you had a chance to check out the web class. I think that's really going to help you. I know you're early on in your investing journey. Really would encourage those to go there. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited about Tuesday, and we won't think about not being together on Thursday for a while there. We've got Tuesday to look forward to. So I appreciate everybody, and we'll catch you on down the road.
I'm gonna cope with that lack of Thursday by stuffing my face. So
I think we'll find something to do. And you know who plays on Thursday night?
I think the Jags play, right?
Steelers, baby. Steelers.
Oh, the
Hey,
Steelers.
I got tickets to the Steelers-Jags game this weekend.
There you go, buddy. Is that this weekend here?
This weekend.
Oof. Who you cheering for, Greg?
Come on. You know I love Jacksonville real estate, but I'm from Pittsburgh, baby.
The undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers.
All right.
That's awesome. See you, everybody.
Take care.
Bye.